Anyone active in the hobby of Yu-Gi-Oh! Knows one thing: this game gets expensive. With the price of top decks landing anywhere from $200 to $500, a lot of duelists find themselves asking the same question: can you even compete on a budget? In this series, I plan on seeing how difficult it actually is to compete as a budget player. Starting with a $50 deck and limiting myself to $20 an episode, I'm going to buy, sell, and trade for cards to make the deck competitive and use it to top a large event. Using only my $20 allowance as well as any prizing from tournaments, I'm now competing on a budget. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Competing on a Budget. Like the intro states, we've given ourselves a $50 budget to build a deck and see how it competes. Over time, with prizing and a $20 an episode budget, we're going to upgrade the deck and see if we can't compete at higher level than locals with this deck. As you can see, we decided to go with Exo Sister. It's a perfect budget deck right now. All of the main staples of the deck have been reprinted in the Megatins, so you can get it super cheap. If you are not familiar with the Exo Sister strategy, it is a graveyard hate deck. All of the main Exo Sister monsters share the effect that if an opponent moves a card out of the graveyard, you can immediately Xyz summon using that monster as material. It makes it really strong in most formats because a lot of decks really like to touch the graveyard. So let's go ahead and dive into the main deck so far. We have 3 copies of Exo Sister Martha. Martha is going to be the card that gets most of your combos started. Her effect is that you can activate it in hand and she will special summon herself as well as her sister Ellis from deck. Martha is the only Exo Sister monster who has the effect that if any card is moved from the graveyard, so by you or your opponent, you can Xyz summon using this card as material. Next, we have 3 copies of Exo Sister Ellis. She's the monster that you're going to special summon off of Martha from deck. She also has the effect that if you control an Exo Sister monster, you can special summon her from your hand. All of the Exo Sister cards have what are called sisters. So Ellis has Martha and she also has Stella. All this really does is when you activate their extra effects, so for example, Ellis special summoning herself, if Stella is on the field, you gain 800 life points. Next, we have 2 copies of Exo Sister Stella. This is your main normal summon in the deck. Her secondary effect is that you can activate it to special summon an Exo Sister monster from your hand. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Exo Sister Sophia. Sophia has a secondary effect that if you control an Exo Sister monster while she's on the field, you can activate it to draw a card. And then we are playing the 1 copy of Exo Sister Irene. She is the partner for Sophia. She has an effect where you can return an Exo Sister card from your deck or from your hand to your deck, and then you can draw a card. It doesn't come up very often. She's mostly here as a target for Vadis to summon with Sophia. We're also playing the Spirit Engine. We're playing 2 copies of Aratama. He is a normal summon, and on summon you can activate his effect and you can add another spirit card from your deck to hand. And then we're playing 3 copies of Sakitama. Sakitama's effect is that you can activate it and then normal summon a spirit monster from your hand. These 2 cards pretty much act as a rank 4 engine to try and get you into your Exo Sister monsters if you don't have any. For the rest of the Exo Sister engine, we're playing 3 copies of Pax. Exo Sister Pax, you pay 100 life points and then you can add any Exo Sister card from your deck to your hand. If that Exo Sister card is a monster and the monster's sister is in the graveyard or on the field, you can special summon it. So it's like a Rhoda or an Itelli, depending on how you use it. We're playing 1 copy of Called by the Grave. This is perfect for when your opponent tries to Ash your Martha. It's kind of the biggest thing. Playing 2 copies of Pot of Desires. This in an ideal build would be Prosperity, but we only have $50 to spend, so we're going with Desires just for the draw power, in case you didn't see any starters. We're currently on 1 copy of Exo Sister Returnia. This probably should be at 2 in an ideal build, but we can only get our hands on 1 copy. This has the effect that you can pay 800 life points and banish a card on the field or in the graveyard. It also has a secondary effect that if you have Exo Sister monsters on the field, you can immediately Xyz summon using them as material, or if you've already Xyz summoned this turn, you can banish another card of your opponent's non-targeting. We're playing 2 copies of Vadis. Vadis has the effect that you pay 800 life points. You can special summon 2 sisters from the deck, so Martha and Ellis or Sophia and Irene are usually my targets. And that is usually something you want to chain to if your opponent is planning on moving a card out of the graveyard, so that way you can immediately get those Xyz summons. For the hand trap, non-engine lineup, Dimension Shifter, this deck can play it, so you have to. It's probably the best card in the deck, to be honest with you. People hate it, but there's a reason they hate it. It's very, very good. We're currently on 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice. This is kind of like a budget imperm. Target 1 face-up monster on the field until the end of this turn. That target gains 400 attack, but its effects are negated. Once we can get our hands on some imperms, these will be gone, but for now it's doing its job the best it can. We are on 3 copies of Effect Veiler, super cheap hand trap, very common, and comes up in a lot of situations. We are on 3 copies of Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill. Again, very cheap hand trap, and it works kind of like a Veiler on special summons. And then the last 3 cards in our deck, we are on 3 copies of DD Crow. This card has applications in this format currently. It's mainly in here because it's a budget hand trap, and you can trigger your Martha off of this if you need to. Now for the extra deck. We are currently on 3 copies of Exosister Michaelis. This card, when it's Xyz summoned this turn, has a quick effect banish from the field or graveyard of your opponent targeting, and it also has the ability to add an Exosister spell or trap from your deck to your hand. We are on 3 copies of Exosister Caspatel. This card, when it's summoned using Exosister monsters, has a mandatory effect where neither player can special summon from the graveyard that turn. It also has the ability to detach 1 and add an Exosister monster from your deck to your hand. We are on 3 copies of Gabrine. This is a one-of usually, honestly, but we're on a budget and we had space in the extra deck, so we're playing 3 copies. The turn it's Xyz summoned, it is a monster negate, and it can detach material on your turn. It boosts all of your Xyz monsters' attack for the turn by 800, and that is monsters that you summon after this as well. So this is how you OTK a lot of the times. We're currently on 2 copies of Exosister Asophiel. Asophiel is an Abyss Dweller. The turn that it's Xyz summon, it's really powerful against graveyard decks, obviously. On your turn, you can detach a material and bounce a monster on your opponent's side of the field. And then lastly, we're on 1 copy of Exosister Magnifica. This is the main boss monster of the deck. It has 2 effects. It is a quick effect, non-targeting banish. It also has the effect that when your opponent activates a card effect, you can return one of the Xyz or one of the materials under it to the extra deck, and then special summon that monster back out using this as material for the Xyz summon. So usually you tag out your Michaelis and come back in, and that's how you get up to 4 banishes on your opponent's turn. This card alone is a third of the budget. That's why we're only playing 1. This should be a 2. Hopefully we'll get another one soon, but this is a great card. Don't forget, it can attack twice as well. So again, this in Gabrine is how you OTK. So that is the deck as it stands right now to start the journey. Let's go ahead and sleeve this up and get ready for locals. All right, we are at my local Stormcrow Games. We win the die roll going first against Tri-Brigade, Fire King, first match of the series. Can't see it. We did open Shifter, so we Shifter in the draw phase, activate Martha. Martha summons Ellis, go into Caspatel. My opponent ashes the Caspatel. They forgot that you are supposed to ash the Martha. We do have the packs in hand. Pay 800, search out Sophia. Normal summon Sophia. Sophia effect draw. Special summon Ellis. Go into Michaelis. Michaelis effect, search Returnia. Pretty standard combos. We have Desires as well. Honestly, opened kind of nuts. Sorry, somebody hit the camera, so we just fixed that real quick. Those two go into Magnifica. We set one and we pass. Now, this is a pretty fortunate matchup for us because the Tri-Brigade stuff gets turned off by Shifter. My opponent does open the spell that lets you set the field spell for Fire King. They go that effect, and I banish it with Magnifica, so it does not resolve. My opponent sets one and passes. I'm thinking here about whether or not I want to try and get that set off the board. Going into my turn, we draw and we open Aritama. Aritama normal summon effect. My opponent's thinking they chain. I'm not too familiar with the Fire King monsters, but they chain the one that destroys a fire monster, special summon itself. Then they go Kit effect. Kit sends Nerval. They go Nerval effect. Nerval's going to search. We've resolved and added Sakitama to our hand already. They search Fractal. We normal summon the Sakitama off its effect. Sakitama and Aritama are going to go into Gabreen. Gabreen effect. All my monsters gain 100. My opponent sees the writing on the wall and scoops. Game 2, we open Shifter again. My opponent has some Fire King plays in hand, however, that can play through Shifter a little bit. Has to sack the kit in order to get their Fire King plays going. Now, in this game in particular, we didn't open super well. Yeah, we opened Shifter, but the rest of the cards in our hand were not ideal. We draw, we look at our hand, we set one, and we have to pass. We don't have any combo, we don't have any way to play. Sometimes you just have to be patient with this deck, and especially against a matchup where you know they're going to touch the graveyard, you still have a chance. So my opponent is doing his Fire King plays. Again, I'm not super familiar with the Fire King deck, so I don't know exactly what it does. He is, however, getting ready to attempt to resolve an effect that's going to special summon the level 1 out of the graveyard. Right here, this is where I activate Vadis. He's going to touch his graveyard. I'm going to plus off of it. We summon Sophia and Irene from deck. They both trigger since some card was moved out of the graveyard. We go into Michaelis, we go into Gabreen. Now we have a banish, and we have an imperm on field. My opponent is, again, not super familiar with the Exo Sister card, so trying to find a way to play around what could be a problem for him. He summoned the Xyz, it destroys everything, but we have Gabreen, we'll negate that. He does have Tactics in hand, this is tough. We go ahead and attempt to chain the Michaelis. It gets impermed, but at least now he can't activate Michaelis' effect to banish our Gabreen. He attempts to activate the effect of a monster that's already negated, realizes we cannot do that. This is where he just goes into battle phase, attacks over, attacks with Michaelis. I was worried about a Zeus play here, but he does not have a Zeus in the extra deck, so he just goes into Little Knight and passes. Explaining the Fire King cards to me because I do not know them. We have Martha in hand, so we activate Martha. Martha and Ellis both get special summoned. Nothing he can really do here about it. Doesn't have the Ash. We go into Michaelis. Now Michaelis immediately threatens the SP Little Knight because SP Little Knight needs both targets to banish in order for it to resolve. So we go Michaelis effect, add the packs, adjusting life points to make sure I'm not paying life points I don't have, pay 800 for packs. We get the Stella, normal Stella, Stella effect. They attempt to chain Little Knight. This is where Michaelis comes in. Michaelis banishes the Little Knight. Little Knight does not resolve. Stella's going to special summon one from hand. It's Sophia. We Sophia draw, go into Caspatel. Caspitel's big here because that Fire King monster does have an effect where if it's destroyed, or it can special summon 2 from graveyard. Caspitel says no, you cannot. Use those 2, go into Magnifica. Magnifica, we clear that out. Magnifica attack twice. Then we pass to our opponent. Again, this is a hand that we drew. I believe we had 2 shifter. Not ideal, but we figured it out. Here my opponent attempts to activate the Fire King field spell. We chain Magnifica. We're going to banish that so it doesn't resolve. He's got nothing left in hand. That's the end of the match. Alright, we just finished up round 1. Very fortunate matchup against Fire King Tri-Brigade. We actually got it. First match of the series, 2-0. Shifter's a hell of a card. We just finished round 3. I played against Runic Bestial, the Josh Schmidt list from the last YCS. Ended up 2-0ing it. Shifter, game 1 just ended their turn. They immediately scooped, and then game 2, I was able to outgrind. I had nothing but engine in hand, but it was enough. I mean, I can't believe this deck's performing so well already. All right, we've made it to round 4. We are undefeated. Win the die roll against Tier Elements Horus. Draw phase, we did draw Shifter. Activate Shifter, normal summon Sophia, special Ellis, Sophia draw, overlay into Caspitel. Caspitel is going to add us Martha. Activate Martha. Our opponent did not open Ash, so Martha resolves, brings out Ellis. We're going to go into Michaelis. Michaelis search, I'm going to go Returnia. Since we're under Shifter, they're not going to touch their graveyard next turn. Overlay those 2 into Magnifica. We're going to set 1, set 2, set 3, and we're passing. Our opponent is looking at the Shifter, then they activate the Tier Elements field spell. They add Haveness off that so they can play on my turn, not under Shifter. They set 2 and they pass. I'm debating on if I want to let them have that back row or not. I do end up deciding to go Magnifica, banish the back row. It was a bluff, but it was worth getting it off the field. We go Magnifica into attack. Activate Martha. Martha and Ellis are both going to come out. Looking at it now, we're going to overlay into Michaelis. Michaelis effect, we're going to search a spell or trap. This is where my opponent activates the Haveness. Haveness is going to resolve. I add Pax. They're going to activate Rhino Heart, and I believe that is Scream? No, Celiac, sorry. Here we attempt to chain Vadis, but we realize I don't have a target in my deck because I've used all my Ellises, and Irene is in my hand. So my opponent was nice enough to let me take that back and chain Pax instead. Pax is going to resolve. Stella comes out. Because they moved a card out of the graveyard, Stella is going to trigger. And we're going to overlay, using Stella as material, we're going to go into Gabrine. My opponent's asking me about what the effects, because they're not super familiar with the Exosister matchup. I go Michaelis effect, we're going, oh actually I go Returnia, that's right. Returnia, we're going to banish 2, then we go Magnifica, banish 1. And Gabrine effect puts it in OTK range. My opponent reads just to make sure and goes ahead and we move on to the next one. My opponent goes first, and we once again open Shifter. It's a very, very good card. They start the same line with the field spell, add Haveness, so they can attempt to play on my turn. They're going to set 2 again and pass. We normal summon Sophia, special summon Ellis, Sophia draw. My opponent is thinking response. They let it slide. We overlay into, I was thinking Michaelis there, but decided to go into Caspitel. Caspitel add Martha. Martha effect, we're going to special summon Martha and Ellis. My opponent's reading Martha real quick. We're going to overlay into Michaelis here. Michaelis effect, we're going to search a spell or a trap. We add Vadis for the follow-up on the next turn. My opponent is taking a second to think about if they want to activate anything. They end up deciding not to. They do actually end up activating Haveness after reading or asking me about Michaelis again. Haveness is going to mill, special summon itself. We're going to go into Magnifica. Since all the mills went to the graveyard anyway, we're going to attack over both. Set 1 and pass. Here my opponent goes Imseti, sending Rhino Heart with it as well. They're going to search King Sark. Draw a card. here, they're going to go Tear Elements Kashtira. I'm thinking about activating Vadis, assuming they don't have a Tear Elements in hand to banish, so they have to move from the graveyard. It's kind of a preemptive play, but it ends up working out because they do not have one in hand. They move from the graveyard. We trigger both Martha and Ellis. That brings out Asophiel and Gabrine. My opponent activates their 2 cards in graveyard. I chainlink 3 Asophiel. He did not realize it was an Abyss Dweller. So his 2 cards still do resolve because Asophiel says activate, not negate. So they mill 5 off of Megiddo. I mill 5 off of Megiddo. They add off of their Scream, I believe it was. And now they're thinking how to move forward, trying to play under an Abyss Dweller, which is very difficult for Tear Elements to do. They're reading Magnifica again because she has a lot of effects and it's a very good card. Debating on how they move forward here, so they just go into battle phase, attempt to swing over Magnifica, we banish. They go King Sark, we chain Magnifica, go into Michaelis. Michaelis banish King Sark because that is too good of a card to let resolve. They have a Danger Nessie in hand, so we don't hit the Nessie comes out. They are double checking the effects of my monsters, go into Typhon, attempt to bounce, we negate it with Gabrine. Typhon's not too big of a deal for us because all our monsters are so small. On my turn, I go Asophiel, bounce Typhon. That's an effect a lot of people forget about. Asophiel can bounce on your turn as long as it has material underneath of it. My opponent's thinking about how to move forward. We normal summon Sophia draw. We normal summon Sakitama. We're going to overlay that into Caspatel. Probably should have been another Michaelis, so I had an extra banish, but I was worried about a special summon from the graveyard, so I wanted to turn that off. We go into the battle phase. I attack with Asophiel, attempt to attack with Gabrine. They're going to shuffle, attempting to get Merly shuffled into pop with the field spell, but I do have DD Crow in hand. We crow the Merly, figure out the attackers, and I end up winning. Opponent shakes my hand, 2-0. All right, everybody, it's the next day. We're back home. Get to reflect a little bit on last night's locals. Obviously, things went much better than expected. 4-0 first place with the $50 Exosister deck. Undefeated, didn't drop a single game, I'm pretty sure. Things went really well. We saw Shifter a lot. We played against Graveyard Reliant decks, which our deck does really good against. We played 2 Fire King, Tri-Brigade. We played against a Runic Bestial. We played against Tear Elements in the last round. Shifter put in a lot of work, we're not going to lie. I'm excited to see where this challenge goes. The nice thing is we've got 9 prize packs to open. So let's rip them up and see if we can get anything that we can add to the deck or maybe sell or trade to try and get some cards that makes the deck even better. Okay, we're going to do a voiceover for this pack opening. Unfortunately, I lost my audio in this video. We've got 9 packs for getting first place. We've got 6 OTS 18 and 3 2021 Megaton packs. The Megaton packs have a lot of staples, Triple Tactics Talent, Zeus, Crossout Designator, I think some hand traps as well, so any staples can go directly into the deck. OTS 18 also has Zeus as an ultimate rare. I don't think we would hang on to an ultimate rare Zeus, but we would definitely love to have a Zeus in the deck since we're Xyz focused. Ripping these OTS 18s, as you know, usually it's a lot of super rares, but we get to this pack and we actually end up pulling the ultimate rare Zeus. What a wild pull for the first episode. That we can either play that in the deck or we can use it as trade bait. Either way, it works out pretty well. We get to this next pack of mega packs and we end up pulling the Triple Tactics Talent as well. That's definitely going directly into the deck. Tactics is just a strong card to help you play through hand traps or break your opponent's board if you need to. Ripping over these last few packs of OTS 18, more super rares. I mean, we've already gotten pretty lucky. What more could we really ask for? And then we get to this last pack and end up pulling a Crossout Designator. I don't think we'll play it, but it's great trade bait. Honestly, amazing way to start the series. And that's going to bring this episode to a close. Honestly, it could not have gone any better. Undefeated at locals, amazing pulls in the prize pack. Next episode's going to be great. See if we can't get some more cards with that Ultimate Rare Zeus to add to the deck and continue our success in tournament play. See you guys next time.